this thing! Oh, shut up! If you've been following my videos, then you'd know that I reference The Last Jedi as an example of a bad movie in more than occasion. You might think that I hate The Last Jedi and consider it the worst movie ever. Except, not really. You see, I don't hate The Last Jedi. More like, I was disappointed by it. I did like the movie, but at the same time wasn't satisfied with it. And if you do like the movie, ironically or unironically, it's completely fine. You have the full right to like The Last Jedi if you do so. Liking The Last Jedi is no different than me unironically liking Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and that's a movie everyone hates. Now this is not a full-on review of the movie. It's just my honest opinion about it and the issues I had with it. I should make it clear first that while I am a Star Wars fan, I see myself more of a casual fan rather than a hardcore one. I know the basics of the lore, I watched all movies, I saw all of Clone Wars and the first 2 seasons of Rebels so far. I don't play Star Wars games, never read any of the comics, and I never touched anything from the bajillion expanded universe books out there. Except for the cartoons, nothing outside the movies is within my knowledge. And while the story of the original trilogy is the best written and more iconic, I'm more of a prequel fan. Say what you want about the dialogue and the acting, but the lore of the prequels and the setting is much more interesting to me. The original and sequel movies are stories of the weak side fighting against the larger tyranny force. They're always on the run, and they need to fight with espionage, guerrilla tactics, and hitting at the evil force's weak spots, or winning by sheer luck because it's always a one-sided fight. In the prequel lore, both good and evil sides are on equal terms, so it makes battles and storylines much more interesting to speculate, especially when you know who the true mastermind and how he organized the entire progress to go his way. Oops, did I say speculate? I meant writing the script for the director. I also like the expanded alien worlds. Loads of aliens never seen in the original trilogy, more planets with their unique designs, with more advanced cinematic technologies that made it possible to show. It makes this a very large universe and a real war of galactic scale. The lightsaber fights are also on a different level. Mock them as much as you want, but it made sense to me that they're this outlandish. Unlike the original trilogy that had 2 old men poking their sticks around, then an old man and a novice kid, later on a kid who doesn't want to kill his old man, the prequels had Force users in their prime, knights who are using their fighting capabilities at its fullest. So to me, it made sense to use the Force far better than what we saw in the originals, where it became a myth known only by few.
He has special powers. He can see things before they happen. That's why he appears to have such quick reflexes. It's a Jedi trait.
The story of Anakin itself is a tragic story. A man who grew up with the promise of greatness. A man who everyone saw as the chosen one who will fulfill their hopes and dreams of peace. A man who sacrificed everything in his life, yet gained nothing but pain and misery. There are great things about the prequels, but people let stuff like CGI, midichlorians, Jar Jar Binks, sand, awkward acting, visible confusion, high ground, and memes blind them from seeing the bigger picture. When The Force Awakens was announced, I was one of the crowd who was hyped to see it. It was good, but not without its share of problems. One of them was being mostly derivative from the original trilogy and repeated many things we had already seen instead of something more original. Now I know what you're thinking. Why am I having problem with this in The Force Awakens but not when Fallen Kingdom did it? I already explained that Fallen Kingdom was an anniversary celebration of the franchise, and to me, it made sense there. Star Wars, on the other hand, had been ongoing for decades. Every day we get more expanded universe materials from books, comics, games, and animation. Unlike Jurassic Park that lacks an extensive large lore, Star Wars kept getting newer things to explore. So when The Force Awakens came out, it felt disappointing that they didn't go to a completely new and interesting route and instead went for a lazy, safe route because they were scared to alienate the fandom again after giving them the prequels that were too different from the original trilogy. But let's talk about the movie in question. I'll start with the things I liked in The Last Jedi. The fans made a huge deal speculating in her heritage, and I didn't buy them. If you know Luke, Obi-Wan, or Qui-Gon Jinn, then you'll know Rey is no way related to any of them. Or at least not their daughter or granddaughter. There's no way Luke would abandon his daughter on some remote planet. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are monks who take their Jedi code seriously, and there's no way they'd have a daughter when they made a huge deal about Anakin's love and attachment to Shmi and Padme.
Must be difficult having sworn your love to the Jedi. Not being able to visit the places you like or do the things you like.
Or be with the people that I love.
Are you allowed to love? Thought that was forbidden for a Jedi.
Attachment is forbidden. Possession is forbidden. Compassion, which I would define as unconditional love, is central to a Jedi's life. So you might say that we are encouraged to love.
Attachment leads to jealousy. The shadow of greed, that is.
And if she came from no one, so what? Wasn't Anakin the son of a slave? There was nothing special about his lineage, and he was the chosen one who ended up as one of the greatest Force users in the galaxy. So when Kylo Ren confirmed to her who she really was, I liked that moment of subverted expectations.
Dear child, I see your eyes. You already know the truth. Whomever you're waiting for on Jakku, they're never coming back.
Oh, Rey, what a Mary Sue you are. Hold on, is she really a Mary Sue character? According to the internet, a Mary Sue is a female character who is always perfect, always better than everyone, never fails at anything, and never suffers or gets hurt. Is Rey a Mary Sue by this description? No. It might be surprising to you, but Rey is not this perfect God mode Sue everybody thinks is. Let's recap for a moment. In The Force Awakens, she failed in flying the Falcon the first time and almost crashed it, switched the wrong fuses and almost caused Finn's death.
Oh no.
On a what?
Wrong fuses.
Failed to shoot the stormtrooper in her first try. She cowered in fear against Kylo Ren and couldn't defend herself. Failed in using the Jedi mind trick in her first try.
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
What did you say?
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
I'll tighten those restraints. Scavenger scum.
Tossed around like a rag doll.
Right!
She kept avoiding Kylo Ren's attacks and kept running for her life instead of standing her ground and fight. And she didn't really defeat Kylo Ren, it ended in a draw. She also refused to join the Resistance or Han's business because she wanted to go back to the place that will certainly kill her for all the mess she did.
I'm never touching that thing again. I don't want any part of this.
In The Last Jedi, she failed to convince Luke to join the battle. She didn't instantly defeat him in their little fight. She couldn't resist Snoke's powers. Every time she fights, she makes this face and uses brute force to violently swings her lightsaber. You almost think she's a better dark-side user than Kylo. Definitely not the son of a strong woman, but more like a kid throwing a tantrum and smashes stuff with his toy lightsaber. Her other skills though? Well, she worked as a junk scavenger and was familiar with the modifications to the Falcon when it was out of service ever since she was a kid.
What about that ship?
That one's garbage! Gun position is down there. This ship hasn't flown in years.
Are the shields up?
Not so easy without a co-pilot.
Who had it? Duquesne?
I stole it from Uncle Plot. He stole it from the Irving boys who stole it from Duquesne.
Who stole it from me? Some moof milker put a compressor on the ignition line.
Uncle Plot did. I thought it was a mistake too, but it's too much stress on the hyperdrive.
Uncle Platt installed a fuel pump too. If we don't prime that, we're not going anywhere.
I hate that guy.
Angle the shield. Hang on back there.
Compressor.
Electrical overload.
I can fix that.
Coolant's leaking.
Try transferring auxiliary power to secondary tank.
I got it. This hyperdrive blows are gonna be pieces of us in 3 different systems. What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
And come on, the Falcon always had maintenance issues.
Alright, that's it. Right. Oh, turn it off! Turn it off! How's this?
Would it help if I got out and pushed?
Captain said it.
This bucket of bolts is never going to get us past that blockade.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed. Watch this.
Watch what?
I don't know where your ship learned to communicate, but it has the most peculiar dialect. I believe, sir, it says that the power coupling on the negative axis has been polarized. I'm afraid you'll have to replace it.
Well, of course I'll have to replace it.
1, 2, 3!
It's not fair.
Transfer circuits aren't working. It's not my fault.
No light speed.
It's not my fault.
All right, Chewie. Ready for light speed.
If your people fix the hyperdrive.
They told me they fixed it. I trusted them to fix it. What are you doing here?
Repairs. I thought you could help me out.
What have you done to my ship?
Your ship? Hey, remember, you lost her to me fair and square.
And apparently she did know how to pilot, so her skills weren't really out of nowhere.
How did you do that?
I don't know. I've flown some ships, but I've never left the planet.
If people can buy Luke knowing how to pilot because he was in the academy despite not seeing him there, or using the Force to change the direction of the blast in A New Hope despite barely having trained in the Force, then I guess we can buy Rey's line of her past attempt at flying and shooting 3 TIE fighters in a single blast.
It just isn't fair. Oh, Biggs is right. I'm never gonna get out of here. And if these new droids do work out, I want to transmit my application to the Academy this year.
You mean the next semester before the harvest?
Sure, there's more than enough droids.
Plus, as a scavenger, fighting other scavengers is like a daily thing to do, so she does have some fighting experience along the way. The problem here though is she fought using staff fighting techniques, and last time I checked, the staff and the sword aren't the same thing. Give her something like Darth Maul's model and then we'll talk. Funny enough, when I first saw this poster, I thought the lightsaber beam was from her staff, until I looked again and noticed that it's actually Kylo Ren's lightsaber. As someone who liked the prequels, I couldn't help but notice the Jedi being arrogant hypocrites who thought they were better than anyone just because they believed they're the good guys. They were so arrogant, they thought the prophecy was about their victory, misunderstanding what it meant by balance.
With all due respect, Master, is he not the chosen one? Is he not to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force?
So the prophecy says.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
They thought they were so powerful, nothing could escape their detection, yet failed to notice the one who controlled them was the greatest Sith Lord of their time.
I do not believe the Sith could have returned without us knowing.
What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
No, that's not possible. The Jedi would be aware of it.
The dark side of the Force has clouded their vision, my friend.
I've just learned a terrible truth. I think Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord?
They bent the rules and manipulated many people in the name of peace, not to mention them willing to break the code when it's more convenient to them.
They want me to spy on the Chancellor. That's treason. We are at war, Anakin. Why didn't the Council give me this assignment when we were in session? This assignment is not to be on record. You're asking me to do something against the Jedi Code. Against the Republic. Against a mentor and a friend. That's what's out of place here. Why are you asking this of me? The Council is asking you.
They practically kidnapped children and brainwashed them to follow the Jedi teachings and mess with their emotions to turn them to obedient child soldiers. Teaching them how to control the Force is one thing, but to tell them they can't go back to their parents or they can't fall in love is another thing. Not everyone is a Vulcan.
How feel you?
Cold, sir.
Afraid, are you?
No, sir.
See through you. We can.
Be mindful of your feelings.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What has that got to do with anything?
Everything. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I sense much fear in you.
They made an army to be cannon fodder, and only select few of them saw them as people. Oh, and let's not forget the most hypocritical thing to come out of the Jedi in the entire franchise.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
And despite everything Anakin had done to the Republic, which normally would make them a hero...
Besides, someone needs to be the poster boy.
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea.
Let us not forget, Anakin, that you rescued me from the buzz droids. And you killed Count Dooku, and you rescued the Chancellor, carrying me unconscious on your back.
All because of your training.
Anakin, let's be fair. Today you are the hero. And you deserve your glorious day with the politicians.
They never trusted him. Instead, they kept using him and pushed him around and didn't show any respect to him.
I feel lost.
Lost? What do you mean?
Obi-Wan and the Council don't trust me. I have to admit, my trust in them has been shaken.
Why? They asked you to do something that made you feel dishonest, didn't they?
Anakin did not take to his new assignment with much enthusiasm.
It's very dangerous putting them together. I don't think the boy can handle it. I don't trust him.
If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust.
The Jedi Order is your life. You can't just throw it away like this. Ahsoka, you are making a mistake.
Maybe. But I have to sort this out on my own. Without the Council. And without you.
I understand. More than you realize. I understand wanting to walk away from the Order.
I know.
So when they denied him his master rank, that was the final straw, in addition to his other issues that he can't reveal out of fear of what they might do to him. If those close-minded, self-righteous jerks won't show any hint of appreciation and keep treating him like dirt despite everything he had done, then they don't deserve his respect. Anakin grew up as a slave, doing what everybody tells him without questioning it. And instead of teaching him how to use his emotions and control them properly, they tell him to shut them off because they're dangerous. Anakin's behavior is the result of that teaching. They failed to teach him on his emotions, and that resulted in a mentally unstable man who can't think clearly and was easily manipulated despite coming from a cult specializing in manipulation via their Jedi mind tricks. Maybe if they calmly explained to him that he wasn't ready to be a master yet, and if he improved his Jedi skills further then maybe he will be a master. But they didn't. Only Obi-Wan went the trouble to say it to him.
You are strong and wise, Anakin, and I am very proud of you. I have trained you since you were a small boy. I have taught you everything I know, and you have become a far greater Jedi than I could ever hope to be. But be patient, Anakin. It will not be long before the Council makes you a Jedi Master.
But it had no effect because Obi-Wan was not the Council and it's not the same thing. They just told him that they won't grant him the rank and never said why. If I was Anakin, I'll be equally pissed off at that and called it an unfair decision and a spit on his face for everything he had done to them and the Republic.
What kind of nonsense is this? Put me on the Council and not make me a master? It's never been done in the history of the Jedi. It's insulting. Oh, calm down, Anakin. You have been given a great honor. To be on the Council at your age, it's never happened before.
Or maybe that was their plan all along. They knew Anakin would be angry at them, and they did that to him on purpose, So they won't make this Padawan who they said was too old to be a Jedi when they took in a better Jedi than all of them.
Boy will not pass the Council's tests, Master. He's too old.
The Jedi practically helped in making Darth Vader. They're not as pure and innocent as they think they were. And let's not forget that Obi-Wan and Yoda aren't that heroic either, as not only they kept the truth about Vader hidden from Luke, but they also trained him in hoping he kills Vader. They were okay with letting Luke killing his own father instead of telling him there might be a chance to save him.
Why didn't you tell me?
Obi-Wan also left Anakin to burn instead of doing what real friends should do and save him from burning despite proclaiming that he loved him. So when Luke said how the Jedi were overblown jerks who did not deserve the legendary status, I was totally with him. Hux was like Grand Moff Tarkin, a general of authority who commands over the Sith despite not having any powers. While Kylo was the powerhouse of the Force, Hux was the powerhouse of the political and militaristic side. Hux had some intimidation and a voice of authority. Hux of The Last Jedi got reduced to a shouting clown who gets easily offended and squabbles with Kylo Ren like their old married couple.
All firepower on those speeders.
Concentrate all fire on the speeders!
Is this supposed to make him intimidating? What a waste. Canto Bight and the quest to find the decoder. I will agree that it took longer than it needed to and had some terrible writing choices. Arrested for illegal parking. Seriously, Rian Johnson? However, what I don't agree here are the criticism about Canto Bight Casino being out of place for Star Wars. Because, yeah, prequels did it first. Are we forgetting where this legendary moment came from?
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
The other thing that I don't necessarily agree with is the politics criticism. Politics or political references existed in Star Wars before this movie. The Empire was basically space Nazi down to their uniforms. Where do you think Stormtrooper came from? The Battle of Endor is seen by many to be an allegory for the War of Vietnam. Yes, seriously. The prequels were filled with political talks and references. They weren't subtle about it.
We're a democracy. The people have decided.
The Senate is full of greedy, squabbling delegates.
There is no interest in the common good.
Enter the bureaucrats, the true rulers of the Republic.
The Chancellor doesn't appear to be corrupt.
Palpatine is a politician.
The day we stop believing democracy can work is the day we lose it.
You really don't like politicians, do you?
I don't think the system works.
Sounds an awful lot like a dictatorship to me.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
Oh no, I'm not brave enough for politics. Anakin, our allegiance is to the Senate, not to its leader, who has managed to stay in office long after his term has expired.
What if the democracy we thought we were serving no longer exists? And the Republic has become the very evil we've been fighting to destroy?
I am the Senate.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Either you are with us, or you are with the terrorists.
Compared to all of this, the politics we get here, which are basically warmongering, are subtle in comparison. Plus, it's called Star Wars. Politics had to be included some way or another. But then we have major stuff like Finn regulated to an extra. It's easy to forget this, but The Force Awakens was originally a Finn story before he was joined by Rey. Even the trailers and posters put more focus on him, and we see him wielding the lightsaber, making us believe that he's the new Jedi of this trilogy. He's the one who kicked off the events by rebelling against the First Order and saved Poe on the way, until he met Rey and then shared the same story together. But now, he got so sidelined and neglected, he doesn't come across as a main character as last time. I blame China for this. They didn't like Finn because he was black and ugly looking by Chinese standards, and since now every studio wants to kiss China's ass for global revenue, they had to slash his role in this movie so they can get their box office without having a black guy take that away from them. Boy, did that sound wrong. Finn was the more interesting character out of the two, with a much more interesting concept to explore, but they denied him of doing anything of significance other than his battle with Phasma. They even made him want to desert his new friends and cause? Seriously? Couldn't they write his reason for leaving to be looking for Rey instead of just escaping because he lost hope in winning?
Sorry, but this fleet is doomed, and if my friend comes back to it...
Way to ruin the character development of the previous movie. And if they really had nothing more for him to do, then they should have let him sacrifice himself to save the last of the Resistance. But even that wasn't allowed to happen because Rose idiotically saved him instead of delivering another blow to the First Order's arsenal.
She can't do that. Shoot her or something.
Speaking of Rose, I don't hate her, but she wasn't that well written and didn't add much to the narrative outside taking Finn's moment of glory from him. Not an excuse for online harassments though. And by the way, if you want to appeal to Chinese audience, please do your research and don't assume all Asians are the same. China and Vietnam aren't the best of friends, and casting a Vietnamese actress isn't the right choice to kiss their asses.
We should not have made this bargain.
Holdo. Just Holdo. From the first moment she appeared on screen, I felt something off about her. Let me address Admiral Akbar's demise for a bit. Yes, him dying off screen and brushing it aside was a bullshit move. But something many people haven't brought up about him and why they decided to do this in the first place. Maybe the reason for doing this is because his actor Eric Barsfeld passed away a year earlier in 2016 and they decided to let the character die with him. Except Akbar is a puppet slash mocap character and all you needed to do was find an Eric Barsfeld impersonator and you have the character on screen again. Which is exactly what they did here. Here's Akbar, voiced by veteran Star Wars voice actor Tom Kane, who voiced countless random characters in Star Wars video games, including Akbar in the original Battlefront game. They had the chance to give Akbar a proper send-off, and they blew it. Back to Holdo. As I said, the moment she appeared, I felt something about her. I'll chalk off her purple hair aside, assuming she's an alien humanoid, but then you look at her outfit. Why is she wearing a dress in a military vessel? Every female crew member was wearing an appropriate uniform fitting for the place and situation. Why is she the exception? From what I heard, if a high-ranking officer wears something like this, it's usually a sign of superiority, thinking that they're better than everyone else and is seen very disrespectful. That's a good sign on what to expect from her. Leia had the common sense to wear appropriate uniforms throughout the movies and didn't stick to just her iconic white dress from A New Hope. Then you have the way she talks. Again, a sign of her arrogance. The way she talks down to Poe, ignoring that he is one of the most highly respected pilots and officers and he had the right to know what the plan is that is meant to save everyone on board, with that condescending tone and that stupid grin on her face. Poe had a clear idea of what he was doing and there was no need for the rest to be around. So it was their choice they stayed behind unless Leia ordered them not to. Holdo didn't have the right to keep all her secrets for herself or for the select few she told them about, just because she was the highest ranking officer at the time. That's not how this crew went by. Also, was she just standing there looking at the pods getting destroyed one by one without doing anything? Then why did you stay behind if you weren't going to do anything unless you had a plan from the start?
Do something! Do something! Do something!
Are you sure she didn't fake her resume and she just got lucky to be such a high-ranking officer? What a hack!
Oh no, my friend. This is a mistake, a terrible mistake. They've gone too far. This is madness.
Some fans say Rose was the worst Star Wars character. I say Holdo is the worst for causing a bigger damage than her for being a terrible leader. Laura Dern deserved a better writing than this. And how ironic that this movie deals with leadership when Kathleen Kennedy herself has been terrible at leading Star Wars so far. And before you say anything, Kathleen Kennedy has been an excellent producer and executive producer who worked on many of the greatest movies in history, including E.T., the original Jurassic Park trilogy, Poltergeist, Gremlins, The Land Before Time, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Sixth Sense, and many other great classics that I don't have time to list all of them. Kathleen Kennedy was not a nobody who showed up out of nowhere to give her the Star Wars franchise. But judging from her record with Star Wars, she hasn't been a great leader so far. That on itself is enough of an evidence that just because you had a great record on following a leader that doesn't mean you're going to be a good leader yourself. Oh, and apparently this scene does make sense because they warned us many times that it's important to have accurate readings before jumping to light speed. So this is what happens when you jump without making proper readings.
How long before you can make the jump to light speed?
Take a few moments to get the coordinates from the Navi computer.
You kidding? The rate they're gaining?
Traveling through hyperspace ain't like dust and crops, boy. Without precise calculations, we'd fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova and then it'd end your trip real quick, wouldn't it?
I was also informed that they don't do this as a regular plan because it would be too costly to do that, and something as huge as the Death Star wouldn't be destroyed because it has stronger shields or something. Pretty sure it's mentioned in the diaries of the Death Star Cabin Boy novel or whatever. Assuming it's still canon in the first place. Disney's new canon made everything a mess, and that's why I don't care much about the expanded universe.
How are we getting in?
Their shields have a fractional refresh rate, keeps anything traveling slower than light speed from getting through.
Snoke's death. Man, Andy Serkis really got the shaft in his villain roles lately. As I said earlier, Snoke was one of my most favorite things in this movie, and he had great potential for the story. We see how powerful he is and how he toyed with Rey over and over again. They built him as the new threat that's so dangerous, even Luke is afraid of him. He's as dead as a pile of flesh. Snoke ended up as a joke with no relevance to the plot that he started. I know people would call it a Return of the Jedi ripoff if he would be killed by the end, but this is too soon in both the story and this movie, as this is not the end and we still have 45 more minutes to waste. That would be like if the Duel of Mustafar was in the middle of Attack of the Clones and have the rest of the movie and Revenge of the Sith about the rise of the Empire, but without Anakin or Darth Vader, which goes against the purpose of the prequels. Speaking of, there's this joke that Palpatine was also a nobody who came out of nowhere, except in A New Hope, we already know the galaxy was under Imperial rulership, so logically, we know there is an Emperor out there. Plus, he was saved till the end, and his defeat had a symbolic meaning behind it, which resulted in redeeming Darth Vader and fulfilling the long-awaited prophecy of restoring the balance to the Force. Kylo Ren killed Snoke for his own selfish reasons, not because he saw the light, but because he felt betrayed and was going to rule over the galaxies in his place. Snoke is someone we don't know, who somehow managed to make his own army following the steps of the Empire, and still strong despite losing a planet, and he was the main cause for turning Ben Solo to the dark side and managed to intimidate even Luke frickin' Skywalker. Something like this should not be tossed aside like a side note. It should have been handled more personally for both Kylo Ren and Luke together. Instead, they had someone who had nothing to do with any of this taking center place because Luke turned to a coward and refused to bite back. Oh, don't worry, we'll get to Luke after this. That should have made a hole. Where is it?
I don't want this stunted slime in my sight again.
But out of everything that came out of this movie, nothing comes close to what they did to Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, the hero of this franchise, the Jedi Knight who fought to end the tyranny of the Empire and save his dad from the dark side, has been turned to a grumpy coward who wants to die alone. Where to begin with this?
Go away!
I think I need to address this issue of the map from the first movie that I didn't notice until it was brought up by Linkara. The map wasn't from Luke. He didn't give it to someone and said, if you need me, find me here. It was an estimation of where he went to. They didn't say, this is the map from Luke Skywalker. They just said, the map to Luke Skywalker. Congratulations, Rian Johnson, you won this round. Though the issue still remains on why R2-D2 didn't just show the map for all these years. Maybe he was calculating and organizing all the charted universes in the database to pinpoint his location?
General, I regret to inform you, but this map recovered from BB-8 is only partially complete. And even worse, it matches no charted system on record. We simply do not have enough information to locate Master Luke.
Sometimes we forget that space isn't two-dimensional and it's not as easy as reading a regular map. Obi-Wan went through a similar issue in Attack of the Clones.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
Lost a planet, Master Obi-Wan has. How embarrassing. How embarrassing.
But it's still too contrived to save it for just the ending. It's another problem I had with The Force Awakens. Luke going to hiding isn't really an issue. Both Obi-Wan and Yoda and every Jedi who survived Order 66 exiled themselves to hide from the Empire, so Luke doing the same didn't raise my eyebrow. I thought it was the natural course of action for a situation such as this.
Into exile. I must go. Failed, I have.
Your enemies are looking for you, so hiding until you feel you're ready to strike back is a logical situation. That's what Obi-Wan did after all. He was hiding from the Empire, and only when the time came for Luke to join the cause is when he showed up and took action. Except this is not why Luke went to hiding this time. He ran away to die of shame like a pathetic old fool. He made a little mistake that we aren't aware of and thought it was the time to call it quits. Then comes the issue of him cutting himself from the Force.
That place was trying to show me something.
It offered something you needed. And you didn't even try to stop yourself.
But I didn't see you. Nothing from you. You've closed yourself off from the Force. Of course you have.
In some way, I want to believe that he would just do that because he's a Jedi Master and he knows how it would work, and it would be logical to cut yourself from the Force to avoid detection by other Force users, in which also would explain how he didn't know about Han's death when Leia was able to. Hold on. Was this the hint that she was already a Force user before The Last Jedi? Nah, that would give them too much credit. But then when you remember him doing fine and sensing Leia's Force and interrupting Rey and Kylo's conversation, you remember that he can sense and use the Force like nothing happened. How many writers worked in this movie again? Couldn't they keep some consistency with this? The final battle is also disappointing because it wasn't really a battle. Give Obi-Wan some credit in A New Hope because he actually fought Vader in person. The build-up for the reveal was also sloppy. Not only Luke looked different from how he looked in the entire movie, but he also uses the blue lightsaber that was destroyed earlier. Him using it was a clear indication that something was obviously not right. I miss the fact that his feet didn't rub on the salt, but if he showed up with the green lightsaber, didn't it make the reveal much more surprising? It's also a plot hole since we see him touching and kissing Leia in this scene, and it was made that she can't touch him and taking the dice from him. If his projection can be solid, then why wasn't it so later on? Because his powers were draining or something? It is upsetting that Luke couldn't be there, but when you think clearly, there really was no way he could. His X-Wing was submerged in water for God knows how many years, so there's a high chance it wouldn't even work. And even if it worked, he still needed an astromech droid to calculate the lightspeed jumping process, or he would just blow to pieces, and Luke didn't have any in his possession, and R2 was with Rey on the Falcon. The only way for him to come back was with Rey, but by that time not only she was running out of time to reach the Resistance, but she couldn't be positive if Luke was going to help, so she couldn't risk wasting her time with him. And then him dying. I'll be lying if I said I didn't see it coming. I went to the movie expecting them to do it. It's called The Last Jedi, and they're pushing for the new generation, so his death was only a matter of time till it happens. While it's upsetting and makes me sad it happened, I'm not that upset about it. I knew it was coming, and it happened. But all of that is nothing compared to this.
I am semi-speechless.
Luke Skywalker was going to murder Ben in his sleep. Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker was going to kill someone who hadn't done anything wrong yet because he just sensed something. What were you thinking with this, Rian Johnson? Were you even aware of what you were doing? This is the same Luke who went the effort of saving his father, who held the dark side in conquering the galaxy, betrayed his people and friends, and murdered children for crying out loud, yet he still believed he was redeemable. A fact stated by Rey of all people here. Yet, his nephew and the son of his sister and best friend deserve to die despite doing nothing? And in his sleep instead of confronting him like a man? Isn't this the same shit Anakin went through? Ruining his life because he had dreams manipulated to him by Palpatine?
Ironic.
Evil Luke is something you see in fanfics as a what-if scenario. Hell, I did something like this back in the day where I made him die by Kirito of all people. But these are fanfics, not meant to be canon or taken seriously. Rian Johnson basically took a fanfic element and made it his own canon.
How did this happen? We're smarter than this.
I can take Luke wanting to run away. I can take Luke cutting himself from the Force somehow. But I'll never going to take Luke attempting to murder something in his sleep like a Sith. I'll mirror Miss Anthroponia's statement here. The moment Rian Johnson thought of that, someone had to interrupt him and say this is a terrible idea. This is why killing Snoke was a bad choice. Snoke was the main cause of this, but Luke is not going to confront him over this. They're both dead and the movie decided to switch to Kylo Ren's rise of power instead. It's not a bad idea, but the execution was horrible. And before anyone says, oh, Luke was compulsive in Return of the Jedi, so it would make sense here. Are you seriously comparing these two moments? In Return of the Jedi, not only he was a kid in training, but he was also tempted by the Emperor to fight his father when he was told that his friends will be killed on Endor, plus he already stated that his father was dead to him.
You want this, don't you? The hate is swelling in you now. Take your Jedi weapon. Use it. I am unarmed. Strike me down with it. Give in to your anger. Unless you're chicken.
Yet he held back from killing him when he saw that he was going too far. This is an adult Luke who should have been much wiser to not repeat that mistake again, coupled with his knowledge with the history of the Jedi and their falling. He knew better than not repeat the same mistakes, and he did it in one of the worst writing choices in Star Wars history. This is what broke The Last Jedi for me. This is the thing I'm not willing to forgive. Of course, as of this video, episode 9 isn't even out yet. We don't know the title, and we didn't have any teaser, and I'm avoiding production news because nothing is safe these days. But for now, this is my honest opinion on this movie. Who knows? Maybe we will see things differently after episode 9. Maybe we will see this trilogy the same as how we used to see the prequels. Only time will tell. That's all for today, and I'll see you next time.
Master Skywalker, look at my new technique!
Incredible!
It is?
Yeah, you were suck at it!
Misogynist!